No, not really. I mean, we called it microbiota, and we use that term to indicate everything from, which is good and is small and you can't see with the naked eye. So that includes the bacteria and archaea and fungi, but also the viruses. Later on, this also included the habitat, and that was the term microbiome that covered that, which was actually coined by Joshua Lederberg, Nobel Prize winner in the 2000s. Well, in a way, the old adagium was that we had microbes in our gut which degrade our food, especially the leftovers in our colon. And when I started to think about it, I thought it was funny. I thought these microbes could play other roles as well. So we started to investigate that. And the whole field moved because we discovered that there's more that microbes do than only converting the leftovers of our digestive system, which is in our colon. And microbes play a role in all kinds of systems. The good liver axis, the good brain axis is there, good skin axis. So it's much more important, and all the health effects are there, which we have never anticipated before. Yeah, it's difficult to summarize that in a short notice, but I think one of the discoveries is that we have microbes with us, and we're all different. We have this personalized microbiome, and we started to discover that in the late 90s, where we used the molecular methods to look at the profiles of microbes in the gut, using all kinds of display and sequencing technologies, and found that everybody had a different microbiome. Later on, we embarked on that with 10,000s of individuals and so on and so forth. So the personalized microbiome is something which is really relevant. And we also saw that in families, especially monozygotic twins, there was a higher similarity between the microbiota of monozygotic twins as compared to the unrelated individuals. And even after they had been separated for years and had their own living in their own household when they were adults. So there's a family impact too, and we thought that were genes, or it can be the colonization at the same time, and probably it's both of them that play a role in the fact that we have that personalized microbiome, because that explains this nicely, because we are in earlier life colonized by microbes, because we are born quite sterile. And there's a discussion how much microbes we have, but in principle I think the microbes that we get later on in our lives come from the outside and colonize our gut. And that's another discovery, I think, which is important, because we have seen that this development of our microbiome in early life is really important for our health later on. And I would say disturbances of that process, like for instance the repeated use of antibiotics, disturbs that process and has a profound later life effect. And I think that's something which is one of the hallmarks of our I would say, understanding of how microbes affect our lives. And a third point actually is that we have this enormous number of associations, how our microbes are correlating with health, but there's no causality. And the first example of a real causal effect came from our fecal microbiota transplantation studies, where we showed that in recurrent C. diff patients, which go to the intensive care and are almost dying, can be rescued in a systematic way, much better than antibiotics, in a trial that we did in Amsterdam. There we saw actually that bugs are better than drugs. And that's the first hallmark example that we have a causality of our microbiome, and it also can be used in therapies. Well, the coming years, it's always nice to look in the future, but I should also say that one of the discoveries in the past was in the technology level, that we were able to discover that we have so many bacteria, but also so many genes in our system. So in the MetaHit project, we discovered there were 3 million genes in the guts of a couple of people. Now with new methods and larger cohorts, we come to over 10 million genes which are present in our gut. And I think that will expand that number, and we will understand what it is that some people are different, why people are different from others in terms of their genetic content. And an important factor in the coming years is to understand what those genes are really doing. So not only what's there, but also what is their function, how they're expressed, how they are actually collaborating and constituting this good ecosystem that makes us healthy. Well, when I started to think about isolating microbes from the gut and the importance of gut microbes, I read some old literature and found that we do not only have microbes to degrade the leftovers of our food in our gut, but we also produce enormous amounts of mucus, polymer, sticky stuff that is produced in quantities which are almost equaling the number of carbon atoms that comes from our food. So if we have that, we basically have a substrate for microbes that has to be converted. So we started to set out experiments to find organisms that are capable of degrading mucus. And then we found Akkermansia. And then we later found that it's an exclusive mucus utilizer. So it only grows on mucus. It doesn't grow on normal carbon sources that come from our diet. So that led us to the conclusion that we feed our microbes. We give food to the microbes that we want to have in our gut. And my hypothesis is that we only feed the microbes that we really like to have, so they should be doing something back. So that's called the symbiosis. And therefore we are heavily investigating the symbiotic properties of Akkermansia and found that actually signals to the gut, it talks to us and tells us that to do something. And it reinforces the gut barrier, for instance. It also, in that way, prevents substances like LPS to come into our bloodstream and give inflammation. So it protects us. And this gatekeeper of our mucus, as we call it, Akkermansia muciniphylla, is actually one of the hallmarks of our discoveries in the last couple of decades.